Hey, good afternoon, guys. Aaron Dory with the New York State Firearms Association with another live report from lovely, and that's sarcasm, East St. Louis, Illinois, as we are on day 4 of what's supposed to be a 5-day bench trial challenging Illinois' recently enacted ban on the AR-15 and similar firearms. Why are we here? Why do we care about Illinois? And why does that matter to New Yorkers? Well, the answer is pretty simple. We are, at some point, going to get an answer from the United States Supreme Court on whether or not the states have the right to ban the most popular rifle in America. After the Bruin decision from 2022, this is the time, the best time in our lifetime to fight this fight. And so whatever happens in Illinois or potentially in Maryland's federal court system will do an awful lot towards leading us down the road to finally repealing New York's SAFE Act, sometime down the road. So that is why we're here. That's why we're involved in this case with an amicus brief. That's why we've asked the Supreme Court to consider this case. A lot going on that will directly benefit New Yorkers down the road. So today was crazy because the government has clearly saved their dumbest, most arrogant, most sanctimonious, and seemingly most incompetent witness for the very end. Today's witness so far is Jason Dempsey. He has a doctorate from Columbia University, and he has 22 years in the United States Army. He retired as a lieutenant colonel, and he is here as the government's expert witness to make the case that AR-15s are weapons of war. And you ask yourself, well, what does that mean? Because the military has full auto. Well, that's not what Dempsey would have you believe. Dempsey's whole point is that in his entire career in the Army, deployed to Afghanistan, deployed to Iraq, trained thousands of men and women, he's never seen a M4 used in burst or full auto capacity. Therefore, the Army should only have semi-automatic rifles for their riflemen and leave the full auto work to the squad automatic weapons operators. And so because he thinks the Army should have semi-automatic rifles, he believes that our off-the-rack, civilian-owned AR-15s should be banned by the government as a weapon of war. Now, if your head is like twisted around right now saying, what the hell? You did not hear me wrong. I did not misspeak. This guy was asked on cross-examination if he sincerely, literally believes that the U.S. Army should only issue rifles to riflemen in semi-auto. And he said yes. It is a more effective way for a rifleman to use the firearm. So that's how crazy this person is. They asked him, they said, let me give you a scenario. America sends troops to the Philippines to defend against an invasion from communist China. If you were in charge, would you only issue semi-automatic firearms to our troops, the riflemen? And he says, yes, I would. I mean, it was crazy. It was crazy to hear it. Again, their logic here is they have to equate the AR-15 as a weapon of war. So they have to do away with the full auto argument. That's why he's trying to claim that a semi-automatic AR is the best and preferred method. They even asked him, would you issue your troops civilian off-the-rack ARs versus military M4s? And he's like, yes, I would. Like, the guy is insane. The guy is crazy, right? So now it's time for the cross-examination, and it was wonderful to watch. They asked him a couple things. First of all, I said, Mr. Dempsey, you retired 8-10 years ago. What are you doing these days? Guys, I wasn't surprised, but it never ceases to amaze. He said, well, I work for an advisory council for Everytown For Gun Safety. So that is our expert witness, a hardcore lefty, radicalized gun grabber who wants to disarm the entire country. So that was interesting. Then they said, Mr. Dempsey, we honor, we respect, we acknowledge your military career. Phenomenal, 22 years in the Army. That's fantastic. But you have held yourself up here as an expert in small arms tactics, small arms deployment, their use in combat. So we have some questions for you about that. Have you ever been in a situation where you fired a weapon in the military in combat? 22 years. You deployed to Iraq, deployed to Afghanistan. Have you ever fired a weapon in combat outside of a training situation? And he said, no, I never did. Okay. Then they said, did you ever join your men and women on a platoon level or, squad level in kicking down doors and experiencing other people in close proximity to you who fired their weapons in a combat situation? And he said, no, I never did. So the lawyer said, I just want to confirm, in 22 years, you never shot your gun in combat and you never were nearby people who fired their guns in combat. And he said, no, I never was. That's the kind of person they have here today. Very, very disgusting stuff. And then what's crazy is they said, Mr. Dempsey, you're here as an expert on behalf of the government talking about the M4. You do know, right, that the U.S. Army has just fielded and is in the process of onboarding a brand new rifle for their troops, right? The XM7. Do you know that? Guys, he had no idea. He didn't even know that the military is using the freaking XM7. And they said, do you want to guess what its fire capabilities are? And he said, you're going to have to tell me. And they said, safe, semi-automatic, and full automatic fire. So the United States military believes every rifleman should have a full auto option. But you sit here and say that none of them should. In fact, you would only give your men semi-automatics. Is that correct? And he's like, yes, the Army is wrong. I mean, this guy is insane. They said, is there ever a situation when you were in the Army with the M4 where people should be using their firearms in burst mode? And he's like, never, at no time. So they drug out the Army's main training manual. I have the name written down. I don't have it here handy right now. And they had him read out loud in open court 3 different times where the military says that riflemen should use their firearms in burst mode. Number 1, to defend against an aerial attack from a helicopter. Number 2, to lay down suppressive fire when they're assaulting a fortified position. And number 3 was to repel ambushes. So this guy says the Army never trains for this. Yet they read off 3 cases in court today where the Army certainly does train to use these firearms in a full auto capacity. I know it might seem a lot of minutia, but guys, the bottom line is that a full auto firearm in the hands of the military is not the same thing as an AR-15. Everyone knows that. Whether it's J.B. Pritzker or Kathy Hochul or Kamala Harris or anybody else who tries to equate these two is an idiot, and they're intentionally trying to, of course, use these talking points to disarm the entire American population. But guys, take heart. I know it's been a long time since the SAFE Act, 2013. It's been 11 years now, but the Bruin decision from 2 years ago changed everything. We are engaged in a lot of lawsuits, as you guys know right now, challenging New York's about a year-old now ammo registration law. But the next hurdle will be challenging the SAFE Act, and it is important for us to get wins in places like Illinois in the court here next to me, or maybe again in Maryland. As we stack up these wins, it heightens our chances of our day in court to finally and completely overturn New York's unconstitutional SAFE Act, and that's why we're here. Thank you to all of our donors who've helped fund our amicus briefs in this case, our cert petitions in this case. There's much more coming on this down the road, but it does have a direct bearing on all of us here in New York State. More to come, guys. Last day of witness testimony today. We hope to have an answer from the judge very quickly, possibly even tomorrow. Stay tuned. We'll keep you guys informed. Take care.